I feel bad about your father being home, but you know what? In a situation what you and your mother were going through, I think it, it, it might be a better place for him because it's a lot. If you don't have the patience or the help or the materials to take care of somebody sick, it is a lot. It can really just
Like this lady, she was telling me about me taking care of my father and getting paid. And I told her like, nah, I can't do it. Money ain't everything. I can't do it. That's a lot, man. Like to do that. I struggle with one job, man. Like it, and I probably do need to get another job, but two jobs, I don't know. You
I've
know,
done it for a long time. I had two jobs. I
yeah,
mean,
yeah.
it's tough. It is tough
I
because you know
think
what?
not to cut you off, but yeah, I think the reason why I'm saying it because you got to please people that you work for, and that ain't
Well,
easy all the time.
here's the thing: you don't have to please them. You just got to do your job. But if what you do, they like it. Like I remember when I worked at the factory I
But
worked
that's
at.
what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying by pleasing.
Yeah, yeah. The thing I remember when I worked at the factory I worked at. My supervisor one day one of the head guys come from we worked textile Sophie. That's where I worked for almost 13 years. One of the head guys came through, and my supervisor, she was proud of how good a worker I was. She pulled me aside and said, "Oh, George, this is such and such. How you doing, sir?" I said, "Well, George, tell him about this and this and that." I said, "Well, okay." I told him this, that. And the guy said, "Wow, he just, he know what he's talking about." I remember one time this guy, his name was Adam. He used to, while he used to the gas station, he used to bring out beer and stuff. And I was working the register, and one day he said, "Hey, he's my boss." I said, "Hey, how you doing?" And then he said, "Hey, ask him this." I said, "Wait, okay." And he said, and I said, "Okay." I went through all the stock and everything like that. I says, "Wow, you really." But it's the thing is, sometimes, yeah, when you please people, it makes you feel better. When they see what you can do and what you can accomplish, it makes you feel good. That's the thing about bodybuilders. They get on stage, and when they present their bodies and their physiques, and they get the applause, they get the people tell them how you look great, you look amazing. And sometimes in the back of the head, they feel like they're not, because sometimes they feel like that's one thing about bodybuilding. There's a body dysmorphia. They feel they're not big enough. But then, the other people on the outside seeing, hey, wow, you look great condition, you got great shape, everything good together. Nah, I got a problem here. My glute tie is not good. I don't got a full pump. But that's the thing about you feel like you're not confident enough for yourself. But I feel like this: if people are reassuring you, saying, "Hey, you look great," you shouldn't have to worry about. Don't try, overthink anything. That's the thing. Sometimes people overthink things.
Yeah, I mean, when you were saying that, I was thinking about muscle worship. That I didn't want to go there, but
Yeah, you can go there. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I mean, because I'm like, a lot of these women, I feel like they get worship by guys, even the dudes in the chat. Sometimes they you come. I mean, like when you have like your lives and stuff, there be guys that want to see them flex, and there be guys that they want to feel the muscles and stuff like that. Basically, that's what it is showing. So I don't know, man, but you know, it's very like complicated with these bodybuilders and stuff. So if they're not inside, it doesn't matter. So yeah,
Mhm. Well, like I said, thing like I had when I was doing an interview with Jessica. The guy was asking for, hey, she's wearing she's fully clothed. I mean, she's wearing a jacket. You're not going to see a flex. So I just said, you know what? Nah, just leave. He started with a nice little compliment. Then when I read the rest of it, said, nah,
yeah,
I'm
I
not going to
see
show you.
that. I seen
If
it.
you if you want to see a flex, I say, hey, go to the IG, go to social media. They flex enough. They do that is when you're doing routine and practicing. Again, like go back to somebody like Maria, when she say, hey, you know what? Let me flex for you. And I didn't ask. Remember when I did an interview with I think it was Donna Jones. She flexed. She didn't, I didn't ask her. She did it because she wanted to do it. You know, sometimes people do things they want to please others, or the same time they do it because they want to prove something. And that's the thing about bodybuilding.
Yeah,
You have to prove something yourself. Like you're on the stage with these other bodies who may not have workout and train like you do, but they understand what it took them to get there. The diet, the training, you know, all the discipline you had to put in. It's tough for anybody to understand what it takes, especially if you're not in that world. Like you often say, not in that
Yeah,
world. But
yeah,
when they tell you, you feel comfortable telling you, hey, what they're going through. Like sometimes, especially when going through a prep. I was talking lady. She's really cool. She competed her first show, but she was sick. But she wanted to compete because she wanted to show something prove something to herself. She wanted to do a show earlier in a few months ago, but it was so bad she couldn't really do it, so she needed more time to take and cover. And she did, and she looked great. I told her she looked great. The thing is sometimes it's that battle between both your mind and also your body, and also an issue of pride or just preservation.
yeah. Yeah, when these people come in, man, like,
Well, yeah, like I said, I sent the link. So if they don't come, that's on them. It's just you and me.
where's
But
your Merlin at?
oh, I know Jeremy's busy. I don't always want to
Oh,
bother him. Yeah,
okay.
but every now and then I reach out to him. One thing I'm gonna do this. I remember something you sent me a while back,
All right.
and this also goes into the realm of abuse because it was about this young lady here, and she might have some issues. Reason what she did what she did. So we're gonna pull it up here. It's from Goop. You can go to Goop. Goop always dropping some news.
Fucking sickos in the fitness world. Welcome to the show, Adelina Lee Pie. This is Adelina's account, Squatta. Here's a picture from her most recent bodybuilding show. And here's her mugshot from when she got arrested for molesting a 15-year-old boy. This one's super gross and the case is still ongoing. I'll show you guys some information about the case. So here's her arrest warrant. You can see she got 2 charges of lewd battery and 1 charge of molestation. So this is how sick this chick is. She's 26 years old. The victim, who's 15, she's known since he was 10. She convinced him to sneak out of the house and she raped him in the backseat of her car. But it gets a little weirder. So once the kid's family found out and they went to the police wanted to speak to the kid, so they got him at the station. They had him try calling her, but she wouldn't pick up, so they resorted to text messages. It looks like she briefed him before and said, hey, we need to have a safe word so I know that the police aren't in the room when I'm speaking to you. She says it here. What's the safe word? He says abortion. She says, what's our baby's name? He says Aki. She says, call now? He says, yeah. So this sick fuck not only molested a kid, she foresaw the potential that the police would be involved and created this weird little fucking verification thing so they could speak freely about it. It's not even like after she got caught, she was like, yeah, the jig's up. I'm no longer going to try to fuck this kid. On this phone call that the detectives were recording, she made him define the relationship and wanted to reassure him that they were going to work on being together. This is a child that she raped. Disgusting, disgusting human. Can we?
Now you look at this girl; she's very attractive.
Yeah, she
Nice
is.
body. She got nice set of tits. You would think, 26 years old, she can probably get any guy she wants. There's probably a bunch of guys in their 40s and 50s around my age who probably, hey, will love to mount her like a horse. But she goes after a 15-year-old boy. A boy who, at that age, he's still trying to discover himself as a man. Not really a man, it's a teenager. And you got to think about it. That's also a form of abuse. You got to think about it. Why would she do something like that? I
I
mean,
mean, there's stories about women molesting kids her age, kids his age. I mean, but I don't know, man. Like I ain't gonna lie. Like if I was 15 years old, I was thinking this. I was like, damn. You would have like the crush on the teacher and stuff like that. but before I didn't really like look at it as abuse until like somebody was breaking that down, like because that the abuse is where she's pregnant and he's he has a responsibility to take care of the girl and the kid. That's where the childhood is gone. So that can be an abuse because he can't live his childhood. He has to like go through his adolescence, taking care of this being having that responsibility of taking care of the kid and this woman. So unless if something happens to a point where the woman have some help, but his childhood is gone, really, because of that.
Hmm.
You know.
Yeah. Remember, there was that woman a while back years ago who was a teacher, and she got in a relationship with her student. He was like, when he started, he was like 13.
Yeah.
She was married and she had kids. I think some issues with her husband at the time, and the boy hung around because she was one of her students, and he was still close to her. And then next, she got pregnant by the boy. He was like, I think he was 14 or 15 by the time she got pregnant for their first child, and then no more than a year or two later, she got pregnant by the second child. Here we have, and really, it was his parents helping. I think his mother helped him raise the children because she couldn't have because she went to prison. And here's how society looks like this. This is how society looks at. There's a difference between we compare with a man who has sex with a young girl to a woman. When it's a man doing it to a young girl, then it's like tragedy. Everybody's out for
Right.
blood. But when it's a young boy, it's like, hey, yeah, you're getting your chest hairs. You're becoming a man. But the thing is, he's still a child. He's still legally under the age. He's not old enough to drink, not old enough to even to vote, not old enough to do shit. Only thing he can do is chew bubble gum and play Nintendo. That's it. He's not even old enough to even drive yet. I mean, that thing is that society takes different views when it comes to men and women, when it comes to sexual sex. If you have a
Yeah.
daughter, you don't want her to be touched by anybody. But you got to think about it. You touched. You got with her mother. That was somebody else. You say, nah, that's no, that's different. But no, it's not different. It's just because it's a boy than a girl. There's always going to be separation. It's always be separation by our sex. But there's been plenty of stories where women who have abused young children, not just boys, also girls. There's been stories like, there's even, I think there was even stories of, the whole stories about Catholic priests messing with young boys. There have been stories about even nuns because they're seen as women. They don't look at them as that way. I think there was a story where this nun, she had an affair with this guy who's like maybe 17, and she decided to leave the nunnery and didn't have family. Well, here we have my man. He also can talk about being a bodybuilder and dealing with mental and physical issues because what he's been through a lot. My big brother here, Mr. Big Keith Williams here.
What up?
Yeah, what's up,
Yeah,
man?
I saw your progress, pricks. Here's dude. I don't go that way. You look good.
I know. I know.
Yeah, you look good. You look good. He's 6 weeks out. He's going to be doing Chicago. I wish I can go see my big brother and his lovely wife there. Maybe next time, if money gets a little better for me, maybe I hit the lottery, in the next, 4 or 5 weeks, maybe I go. But you know, brother, you've been in this sport for a long time, and also dealing with your own issues, what you went through with your accident. The human body and human mind, sometimes, even though they work together, they can sometimes work against each other.
See, people understand, I just talked to a client today who was training with me today. You don't understand the world of bodybuilding, there's a lot of body dysmorphia in our sport. And this is coming from my big bro and flex trainer for years, Flex Wheeler, who had, in my opinion, probably the prettiest body in bodybuilding, as far as symmetry and just, he could just never be Ronnie because he just didn't have the conditioning from the back, and Ronnie just took it to a whole different level. But when a person looks at me and says, I was never happy by the way I looked, I'm like, then what the fuck the rest of us supposed to think? You know what I'm saying? I mean, and he had the prettiest body ever. I mean, just flawless, I mean, as far as just overall presentation. And that's what he told me. And he's like, people understand in our sport, we're always chasing as a perfection, and it's not such thing. So that's where the body dysmorphia comes in. It's like you're always looking to be better than you are, and there's no such thing as a perfect body. I mean, guys that got close, Ronnie, even the latest thing with Lee Haney talking about how these guys have, and I think I sent it to you, how these guys are taking it to the extreme these days, and it's just not healthy. So that starts weighing on you because let's take Nick Walker for prime example. When I competed against Nick Walker at the Chicago Pro, he was fifth at that show via Atlanta, Georgia, is because of COVID, so we had it there. Nick was, to me, that look that he had brought to the table was amazing. He didn't know what he was doing. This was his rookie season. He didn't even know, if he made the top 5, he was supposed to do his routine, which is actually the top 10. But as he evolutionized, his body just started getting bigger and bigger and disproportionate. And that's what, like Lee Haney is talking about in that video. Like some of these guys, Dallas McCarver, who's no longer with us, who was a good friend of mine as well. Cedric McMillan, who was a very good friend of mine, who's no longer with us. Sean Roden, who's a good friend of mine, who is no longer with us. Because, at the end of the day, we're chasing after something that the perfection aspect of it, and it's just not a such thing. And some guys are just willing to put their health at risk, and that's what happens. So when we're talking about mental capacity, that's what we're talking about. People still ask me, "You're 52 years old. Why are you still competing?" I'm like, "Well, this is my last year. I took 2 years off after getting my car accident, and basically was able to mentally regroup because at the time I was in a place where I didn't want to compete anymore because you're constantly getting mind fucked by your own mind, the judges, and just the sport in general. And so it weighs on you. And so I was like, I just can't do this anymore. And so when I sat back and I said, do I let the sport define me or dictate me, or do I go out on my own terms? And I choose to go out on my own terms. And so that's why, this will be my last year competing because I want to. It's like I always tell people, if you ever watch the last Rocky when he fought Tolver, and he looked at Paulie at the end of the movie and he says, Paulie, I think the tank is finally empty. He knew in his mind that he was done. He got everything that he wanted to get out in that last fight, and he was done, and he can walk away, and then he got the Creed. And again, it's a movie, but the mental, what I'm talking about is the mental capacity of the way athletes think. And some athletes think that way. I've just seen a guy retire from the NFL at the age of 29 because people understand, with all the CTE that we face in our sport, people don't understand that, the amount of trauma that, me, especially as a running back, a kickoff returner, special teams guy, how much trauma, my last concussion, I was out for 5 minutes and things like that. So people don't understand that that's what happened as far as the mental capacity of that. So you take that and you go into the world of bodybuilding, and now you take the PEDs and all this other stuff, and it just weighs on you. So from my perspective, when Flex told me that, it told me all I need to know from a guy who had body dysmorphia, who was legendary, who's a Hall of Famer. And if he says something like that, I'm like, whoa, what the hell are we all supposed to think? And that's what's going on in our sport these days, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, folks, we have a lady. We have a lady here, that my dear friend, the lovely Miss Stephanie Guy. She is amateur competitor. A while back, I interviewed her. She's very passionate about bodybuilding, but also she has her issues about it. We talked about it quite often. So welcome, madam. Welcome to the.
Hey, George. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. So you're still an amateur.
Yeah.
And dealing with training, everything, you feel like sometimes you're battling both, not just your body but also your mind.
Oh man, sometimes I feel like it's more mind than no, not more mind than anything, but it can be very, very heavy on your mind and like how you look and I'm just recently kind of learned like just don't get caught up with other people, what they look like and what other people are doing, because it's not going to help you in the long run. Like you can follow people and have like heroes and, like watch their training programs and stuff, but to idolize one person or to say like, I want to look like this person, I don't think that's very healthy. I kind of screwed up that question. Sorry, guys. I totally messed up that question.
That's all right. You explain it to the best way how you know it, and sometimes it's not perfect. When you try and find an answer to something, there's no perfect answer. But if understand what's the problem, what's the issue, and you can point it out and share it. That's the thing is that's the most important. I think people need to realize, sit down, and don't guilt somebody because they feel some type of way. Like I said earlier, this month is Men's Mental Health Month. As men, we often have to deal with society's views of what we should be, how we
Oh
should be.
yeah. I didn't. I just recently heard that um, men are suffering from body dysmorphia, and men are suffering from being like judged, kind of like on their appearance and stuff. And yeah, that's not easy, and that makes me sad because we need to just ease up on judging others. I really feel that. Yeah, it's we need to take care of our men, but all with that said, right? We sometimes we also have to understand that a lot of the videos and a lot of the content that we're watching is not true to story. Like I don't see some kind, I would consider like man hating videos, or like kind of taking the joke too far. I've seen a lot of videos like that recently come up, and I don't think that's true to life at all. And I think that that's would be hard on men because, like, you're getting judged before you've even opened your mouth or done anything. Do you know what I mean? And that's not cool.
Yeah. Well, I remember my big brother
Well,
said,
that's
What's
like
the judgment about?
What's the
well,
judgment?
here's
Well,
prime
you know
example.
what?
We
Yeah,
talked
like
about this
what's
earlier.
just various of judgment is various of judgments.
Well, think about it, KL. You asked that question when you guys saw women bodybuilders. What's the one thing they call you guys? Schmoes, right?
No,
Yeah,
see, I find
So,
that
I still.
offensive.
but that's judging, right? We're talking about
yes.
Yes.
judging. That's
Yeah,
you
I'm
can't be a
just
It's
saying,
fan.
wrong
like,
You
too to
can't be
judge a
just a
fan. You
fan
know what
and
I mean?
support
Like,
them. You're a
and
schmo, right?
no,
Smoke
see,
gang, 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 gang,
right?
gang.
you see,
Or am I wrong?
I sometimes I
No,
really
I'm
feel
just
like,
saying, like that. When I ask, I'm like, is there's various of judgments? That
oh, is there
I don't want to go
various?
too
No,
deep into it,
okay,
but
yeah. Are there
uh,
levels to it? I don't. I'm not sure. So I work with all like men in a drumstick factory, and
yeah,
all these guys that I work with are all loving, dedicated men. Like they just so that's what I mean by sometimes I see videos and I'm like, this is bullshit. There's no way
mm,
that this is baloney. Like I don't believe it because I've met all the men that I meet are always very nice. But that's my experience, right? Just so.
yeah. Like, what's like when I'm asking, like, what are the videos that
Oh, they're
that
saying that
kind of
men
like
are
have this judgment on, man? What kind of videos? That's what I meant.
um yeah, they're kind of making fun of men, saying that men are the new ladies, and that men want you to pay for their dinner, and men want you to pick them up and stuff like that. And I feel that's fake. It's not true.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. If I don't have a car, you have a car, you can pick me up. And like I said, I'm
Right?
not asking
What's
you to
the
pay.
problem?
Yeah, I'm
Mm,
asking if if I'm a little short on this week, hey, hey, I'll give you a little while gap. We can share it. That's the thing. Too many women, I think it happens back in the day. Yes, men, yes, we do things like, okay, if you take a woman out, hey, you pay for dinner. That's cool. But then that's just a first date. But once we get in the relationship, hey, we have to split. I mean, I'm not gonna put
Yes,
it all
it's a
on me.
teamwork. You're not
Yeah.
just
Well,
dating
it's like
somebody for their
men are
stuff.
supposed to
It's
cry. Men are supposed to be these tough guys. Men cry. We're human.
Yes, actually, I think it would be very alarming if your man or husband or what, if they didn't cry. I'd be like, what are you married to a robot? Like, what's your problem? Like,
There's more men that
yeah.
commit suicide in our country than women when it comes to this topic, and that's why it's been brought up. You know,
Yeah.
Ah,
I mean,
Yeah.
fuck. I mean, I can admit I cry. I watch these American Idol or these America's Got Talent things and watch these stories of a guy who's autistic and blind and gets on the piano and this girl who can't speak worth nothing but can sing, can blow like whistle, and it makes you emotional because it's like,
yes.
wow,
And
what is your excuse? You
I've,
know,
yeah,
I've,
and I think
I'm a
that's
male
a,
who cries. My last video when I did the Legion Fest and George played it, asshole. and I
George.
and I cried because again, it was a journey I went through for 2 years and never thought I was going to compete again, and it was all the emotions that were let out, saying that God blessed me to be back in the place. And some people could take it as soft, but I take it as that's my emotions. That's how
See,
I'm
I think
feeling. It
that's
is what
cool.
it is. And if you want to say some crazy shit, I live in Lawrence, Kansas. We can have some words, but
Yeah, I mean, but look at the size of you too. Like anybody that's gonna call you a pussy or a wiener for crying, I'm just like, get out of the room, man.
I
Like,
I
what the fuck?
I could
She's
tell
like,
you, I watch movies, and remember movies A Time to Kill with Samuel Jackson,
yeah.
and with the little girl being attacked. I want to fight, and then the end he was acquitted, and she was there, and she hugged him. I just that because that was just so beautiful. Because this little girl who went through what she did, her daddy did what he did, and you can't
yeah,
be a father. You understand that you do anything for your babies.
yeah,
Uh, I just like I said again, we're not like Steph said, we're not robots, and I understand that
no,
societies, everybody goes to the mindset of Conan. When the guy asked him, says Conan, what is the point in life? He says, you crush your enemies, see them drilling for you, and hinder ammunition to women.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
that's that's not it. It's
But
never
you
gonna.
can't. But that's also like you're like that's Conan. That's not really true. Like you can't. Like yes, it's funny, but like this whole Andrew Taint culture, it's baloney. It's baloney. Like like real men aren't making podcasts telling other men what to do. Like they're just not. Like and I think if the I think they've leveraged themselves to brainwash a bunch of kids or young men, and but I really feel like it's all. I think it's going to come to an end here pretty soon. This whole like toxic masculinity and stuff, or maybe I'm just living in a whole other world and I'm completely wrong. But I hope I'm right.
Well, here's the
Well,
thing. I send George and I send people that I'm close to messages all the time because it's on my social media and I only follow certain things. And there it is out there. There's men who are talking about their emotions on these podcasts. There are men who saying that it's okay to cry. There's men who are telling their brothers, "I'm proud of you" and things like that. That a lot of like you don't see probably, but
Okay.
there's a
No.
lot of that
No.
stuff out there. It's tons. I see it every day that I wake up, and I send George and I send my boys stuff. Saying you're kicking ass today. Well, nobody wants to tell you now you're fucking kicking ass today. Don't let
Yes.
anybody else tell you anything different. But so it's out there. But it's again, it's what you. It's like I tell people my content in which I choose to follow is different than others. I choose to follow, things on relationship, things on, motivation, things on bodybuilding, certain things on bodybuilding that, as I said, those algorithms then goes into your social media and show you the things that you're interested in. I don't follow anybody. I think I unfollowed like 300 female people. I'm like, who are you? I don't know you. I don't need to follow you
Oh,
whatsoever. So
don't get me started with the fitness and the ladies. Sometimes it's too intense. The pictures, but
I think
yeah,
some women they really want the attention because sometimes like some women I like this afternoon I talked to a lady I interviewed a while back. She reached out to me about asking for shows. I don't got a problem telling you some information that you might need. Um, and that's not a problem. But then some can be a bit needy at times. You know,
okay.
yeah, because they might want to know something. Hey, I don't know. I can tell you what I know, but I'm not gonna tell everybody. But I think it's about that particular person and
Mhm.
what they want. How they want to live. What like I said, my man Keith, he sent me something, and I'm gonna play this. This is from Lee Haney, 8-time Mr. Olympia, and he made some comments. I think and he's a legend, and I think like
yeah,
yeah,
eight-time legend.
Yeah.
and, and the thing is, people always got different opinions. You go,
Sean had a beautiful physique. I thought Dorian had a very good physique, but his chest was weird, his waist was weird, had a great back, great calf, but he was a little bit, he wasn't what you would call, a lot of people say he had great symmetry. No, that was not great symmetry of Sean Roden.
yeah,
Sean had a beautiful physique. I thought Dorian had a very
yeah. And the thing is that this is somebody who's been in sport for a long time, and I think people would take his word more seriously would it take someone like another. He also this is another one here. Again, I'm pull this.
And looking to see when Keon Pearson is going to take that step, being a 212 champion right now.
Yeah.
And
I hope he never take that step. I
Exactly.
think Keon had one of the most beautiful physiques ever. And I've noticed people have been saying, well, he need to put on 20 more pounds. Why you want to put on 20 more pounds and turn into an orc?
Okay.
That's exactly what's going to happen. He don't have the height for that additional weight. If we're talking about a pleasing physique, if you're talking about, okay, we just want to be huge and muscular and conditioned, then okay, if that's all you want, that's all we're looking for in the world of bodybuilding, then fine.
Yeah, I mean, that's
Well, he's not wrong. He's not wrong.
And basically, he's calling out the judges, and that's. I mean, here's my question: how do you disagree with the 8-time Mr. Olympia champion, such as Lee Haney, who's been around and had one of the most aesthetically pleasing physiques? And I understand the evolution of every sports evolved and evolutionized. But again, at some point in time, it's going to be like, Keon, you need to put 20 pounds on. Well, that blows out his waistline. Now his waistline is not going to be the same.
But they don't meet. I don't understand the judging. They change. They say one thing that they're looking for this. They're looking for this, and then when the shows come and they don't equal to what. Like they got rid of women's bodybuilding, so women's physique is turned into like women's bodybuilding. Women's figure is turning into women's physique, and it's all because nobody wants to listen to their rules. I don't know.
Well, it's just like, it's the consistency of judging, is like Lee said, it's changed so much and it's evolutionized so much. But at the exact same time, when you see somebody like when Sandy goes out and says, we don't want cross striations in the glutes, but yet you see the current champion glutes shredded, it's like, okay, well, you just said that. Here's the thing. I am not making this up. I can go back and play the video on YouTube where you said it.
Yeah, the Tyler guy, Tyler Manning or whatever. He's always going on with the rule. Right after every big show, he comes on YouTube and he says the rules, what they're looking for, what they did right, what they did wrong. He dissects it, and then the next show, they just do whatever again. I don't get it.
Makes no sense whatsoever. It's no consistency, and it takes. Here's the thing that I think it's going to take people like Lee Haney. It's going to take people like Linda Murray. It's going to take legends who competed in the sport when it was at its purest form and at its best form. Like you need to go back, like Milo said in the video, and I got to send that to you as well, George. You got these guys in the gym killing themselves, like annihilating their bodies and getting hurt and all this other stuff. Well, that's not what the sport's about. That's not what it's about. It's about creating this this pleasingness and I always tell people and I'm a not a 90s, I'm a 2000 bodybuilder, but the 90s era was the purest form of bodybuilding and aesthetics. And it's like I remember talking to Jay, I think it was Jay or Sean, and Sean's like, I never even measured any of my food. I just ate food, And Jay, he's like, he said, you guys are spoiled. You got meal prep companies. We just would eat food, and the drugs are different, and all this other stuff. And that's why guys are dying more in this era than their era, because they just went in the gym and fucking worked. They just went in the gym and grind. They understood the PED aspect of it, but they also understood the work ethic aspect of it. And there's an interesting video, George, you got to pull up by Paul Gillette that was talking about Lee Priest and how he hated the way they treated the athletes when they were competing. They treated them like shit, and they just treated them like a herd of cattle. And it's a very good article. You got to look it up. Paul Gillette is on there, and I didn't even recognize him because he's so small now. He just looks fragile. But he was saying how Lee Priest was saying how he hated the way the IFBB treated the pro athletes, the moneymakers. And it's going to take people like Lee Priest. It's going to take people like Lee Haney. It's going to take some of these people. And I don't know.
What I want to know is like, why can't the league get those guys judging?
Yeah.
Why can't previous Mr. Olympias be on the panel? I mean, wouldn't they know the best? They're the king and queens of the Olympia.
As an amateur judge, it's funny because I judge Chris and Chad shows, and I judge Chris Bongiovanni shows for years. And the funny thing is, I'm looking at the panel of judging. It's like probably Robert Wickman, me, Tom, maybe a bikini pro, but then you got all these other people who are judges who never, maybe they compete in the sport, but not at that level. And then they judge and they send these people to national shows and they fucking get smoked. And then they're like, well, why did I get smoked? Because you got other judges who don't really know what the fuck they're looking at, judging you because they tested okay, and they send you to nationals and then you get smoked because we know what it takes. We know what
No,
we're
don't
looking
even
for.
get me started. I competed amateur like locally for too long, and then I finally grew a pair of balls, and I was like, "All right, let's go to Montreal." So I show up, and I think I'm like, "Oh, I've done a couple shows, man. I know what I'm doing." Yeah, I get there, and it's huge, and these people, the other competitors, are huge. The boards for the classics, their shorts were tight.
Yeah,
I was like, what the fuck? And it was huge. And like, yeah, and like the years and years of competing here, I wish they would have said, go, Steph, go try a bigger show. Like, because when I finally did have the nerve to do it, I was like, oh, well, like you got to get your feet wet in a big show too before you do it again. If that makes sense?
yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the problem is that you got these judges, like, and I won't,
No,
particularly say,
I know of somebody that they scored good, and then he showed up at nationals and he got blown out, and then they get upset and then they don't want to do it again. Well, you're gonna lose shows, man. It's not a big deal.
Yeah. Here I got pulled up this picture of Tyler Manning. He was judging at the Toronto Super Show right here. This is Carla Cruz. Carla competing wins physique. She was second to Robin Mays. And if you look at her, you know, her quads are crazy. She was originally doing wellness before.
I think the
And
Toronto show there was good judging. I think that looked like some pretty badass judging. But once again, don't take my word for it because I don't understand what they're looking for half the time.
yeah, because if you look at her, she's at a totally different level. I think I was talking to
Oh yeah,
somebody. If she
man.
put on maybe 10, 15 more pounds, she could do women's bodybuilding.
absolutely.
Oh, dude, she probably could go and do it now.
Yep.
Look at her.
Like I said, it's just the right show, the right timing. I mean,
Yeah.
actually, see, it's just
Because
crazy.
did you see Jane, Big Jane,
Yeah, Big
at the
Jane. Yeah, because
Toronto?
yeah,
Dude, she
Jane
looked
looked.
beautiful, man.
I think
She looked really good.
I was hoping that she would at least get into the pro
I guess,
or
but I didn't get dude, she looked sick. But that was a stacked class. Holy moly, that
yeah.
was insane.
Yeah, I think with music is always going to be stacked. So we talk about how the ladies are not coming out and showing up women's bodybuilding. They had technically had 6 ladies, but only 5 compete in the open, and one she just did the masters. Jane, she's an amazing person. I think maybe the right show, she might get Olympic qualification, and that's the one thing that could be a thing where you have to deal with disappointment of you put in this work in your time,
Oh
and
man,
then you go to a show and you think, hey, I'm the shit. There's no way
you get
that
humbled pretty fast.
yeah,
Like that Tracy from Australia? Yes, you do.
Tracy.
You
Oh,
interviewed her.
Tracy Guy. Oh, Tracy Guy. Tracy
Yeah,
Guy.
10 years to get her pro card. She said she fell on her face a million times, got her pro card, and then a year later she was at the Olympia. So just kind of sometimes it just lines up, I guess.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking to a
Yeah.
3-time runner-up before I turned pro at USA's and Nationals, so I get it.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
And you
You
gotta
gotta.
it sucks, but in a weird way, it's kind of good to lose sometimes because it puts you in your place. You gotta,
Yeah, it's one of those things where, when I got into the sport after running track and playing football at the pro level, and it was like, God, do I really want to do this? It's so subjective. Are these
right?
people? And I'm looking at the guys around me, and I knew I didn't know much about the sport, but I'm like, are they that much better than me? And no, they weren't. It was just, I think one time Jim Mannion looked at me and said, it's like comparing apples to oranges, and I'm like, well, what the fuck does that mean?
I know.
Like,
I'm with you.
it's like, it's like, do I really want to do this? But clearly I'm still doing it after 12 years. So,
Yes, because you say you're like, okay, one more, and then I'm going to stop, and then you're done, and then you're like, next year, this is what I'm going to do, and you're like, I've had my friends give me shit because they were like, Steph, you said this was you're going to take a break, and I'm like, no, I'm doing this show.
well, and I just, from the, like, when you're talking about the mental capacity of things, George, and that's this topic of conversation is, it mind fucks you when these judges, you go up to them and you're honestly asking them their true. I know as a judge, when amateurs come up to me, they don't like what I have to say, but I'm like, don't fucking come up to me and don't ask me the question if you don't want the real answer.
Exactly.
I know, and here's the problem. I know as a competitor how it feels to not get a true, authentic answer. So when
or get a fair judging.
Or
get a fair judging.
Yeah.
Too,
so
maybe.
I know when an athlete comes up to me that I want them to get an authentic and true answer from me and not just blow smoke. Well, you need this, you need that. No. I had a girl, Caroline, a long time ago. She's like, I'm like, you must start powerlifting because the year before your waistline was small, and she started powerlifting. I'm like, you have a choice. You can either powerlift or you can compete, but you can't do both because it blows out your waistline. And then she got pissed off about it. I go, then don't come up to me and ask me the fucking question that what you need to do in order to be a national level competitor or a pro, because that's what it takes. And that's
you
the
can
problem.
do not get into this sport if you cannot take somebody saying your shoulders look like shit, your back isn't big enough, you're too fat. You gotta, and you can't take it personally. You have to think of your body as the sport team.
Well,
right?
And I tell people this. I said, if you're being a 3-time runner-up before I turned pro, I said, if your mental capacity is not strong and tough, do not do this sport. Do not. Because it is the most mentally mind-fucking sport that I've ever done in my entire life. And if your mental capacity is not there, and that's what the topic of this conversation is, you're in the wrong sport. Because here's the thing. The problem that I have with the judging is a lot of these judges have never competed before. So they're sitting there judging you, not ever competing before. And it's not so much that, because there's good trainers, there's good judges who have never done a show but know what they're looking at. But at the exact same time, don't give me a bullshit answer. I remember I did Chicago Pro and I was 5th. And Gary looked at my old trainer, Dave Kalick, and was like, he needs bigger shoulders. And Dave was like, what? Like, bigger shoulders? Like, what the fuck are you looking at? I did the Tampa, and Steve, I want to say Steve and Tyler's like, your back needs to be bigger. And I'm like, have you seen my fucking back? It's like a goddamn aircraft carrier. So what the fuck are we talking about? And I'm like, just give me a honest answer. I understand that, there's some heavy hitters in this show and some favorites in this show besides myself that you want me to win. But give me a fucking honest answer.
Did they end up telling you what was up?
What the fuck I really need to work on versus working on something that I may have to do, make a little fine detail, but give me an honest and true answer of what I really need to do. And that happens at the amateur level a lot, and it happens at the pro level. I remember Sean Roden told me before he passed away that something about the cut on his trunks or something. I'm like, what? I think they said that to me at Nationals when I played second to Robert Benica. Jim Mannion went up to Chris Camere and told Chris Camere, and Chris came up to me and said, Jim said, because you're in a different shape, your shapes are different, you need a different cut trunk. And I'm like, are you fucking serious? Kelly Clark, a girl who competed back in the day when she was at Junior Nationals, the judge says they wanted a different colored lipstick. I'm like, what the fuck are we talking about? What are we looking
at? Because there's one aspect that we forget too, that it's pageantry, right?
Yeah.
There's pageant, so it's like a sport pageant. So because I've heard that too. Like they didn't like the eyeshadow; it matched the suit, so they docked points. And I'm like, oh, that kind. But I think if you to try to remind people that part that it can be pageant like. So, but that's beside the point. Like it's still hard on the head.
Yeah.
And actually, that makes it almost makes it kind of worse because come show day, you worry about your makeup, you worry about your hair. You don't want, and for the men, I'm sure you don't want to look like dehydrated or look like tired and shitty because that stuff, I guess they're looking at it.
Yeah, they
Mhm.
told me. I think at the Tampa they said I need to smile more, and I'm like, the fuck do I? I'm starving. I'm dehydrated. Look, I said I'm looking at the guy because in football, when I'm looking at you across the field, I'm trying to fuck you up just like you're trying to fuck me up. I said in bodybuilding, I'm looking at this guy like I'm trying to beat you. So there's no, we're friends. I said, but I'm trying. Like I told my athletes all the time in softball, I said, I understand you guys are friends. You guys can be friends after we whip their ass. I said, right now we're on stage, we're not friends because we're all trying to get a paycheck and we're all trying to accomplish something. And that's
Yeah.
what these people don't understand. It's like, you need to smile more. I'm like, what am I smiling about? You know, I'm
But
being
they,
Here we
judged
get
yeah,
by
caught.
I'm being judged
Yeah.
by 7 people, who are subjectively
but they're like,
judging me.
you
And
gotta look like you're having fun up there, and you're like, I'm
Yeah.
focusing.
Here, I got a comment from my man Raheem Hamilton coming through. Shout out to Raheem. He said this. He says, "Great show. I appreciate that, brother. I mean, I do. I mean, I trust. Like I said again, from a person like myself who's an outsider, but having conversations with both men and women in the sport of bodybuilding and how they have to deal with their physical, mental issues, because this sport it judges you. It judges you about instead again you the right trunks you need to wear, the lipstick you need to wear. You know you should have more this. Is one thing. One thing is like women now. You tell you have a great physique, but you need bigger tits. I mean, it's just.
Wild.
I think bodybuilding can be a real mind fuck if you
yeah,
put
yeah,
it that way.
no, it's a mind fuck.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
is. There's
Because sometimes
nothing.
too, like you're
Yeah,
chasing size and you're chasing a look, and that's fine in the gym, but then you're in the grocery store, and people, I'm sure you get looked at. You get looked at, and sometimes people they don't want to talk to you because they're nervous around you, and you're just like,
yeah,
stop! I'm nice. I'm not one of the mean. Like, because
yes.
yeah, they get it. It
and,
intimidates
and,
people.
and here's where the mental aspect of that comes into play for me, Steph. And by the
Mm.
way, before I say anything, Steph, I appreciate a female finally being on here. George, I logged in. I logged in last week and I didn't see a female and I logged out because I'm tired of no females coming on the show.
Oh
So
no, I
kudos to
love
you, Steph.
George. I'm my timing was off today, but I'm always down to talk about bodybuilding
You
and
know,
mental
Yeah.
health and all
but
that
but
stuff.
here's the thing. What I realized, and I had to stop being an asshole about it because I understand my size and who I am is not normal. So when people would just stare at me, I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah,
Fucking looking at. I'm going to gym like the fucking looking at. And then I'm like, if you're gonna look at me, you might as well fucking say something. And now I
yeah.
get to the point where I'm like, Keith, they don't see people like you all the time.
Mind your own,
So
but yeah,
so
yeah,
I go up to him like, "Hey, how you doing? My name is Keith." And I'm like, and they're like, "Wow, he's a nice guy." Shake hands. Keep it moving. So from the mental capacity of me walking around and people just staring at me, especially being a big black guy on top of that,
yes,
I was like, okay, understand you're not normal. Other
yeah,
people are normal, but you're not normal. So I had to take that away from me sitting here saying, why are these people just looking at me? Is it because I'm black? Is it because I had a guy say at a softball game 2 weeks ago, he was like, I'm not intimidated by you. And I said, what? I said, are you serious? And up like, are you serious? And I said, is it because I'm black or because
oh,
I'm big and black? And the guy goes, well, why
That's
does the black thing have to come involved? I said, because last year I went through the same shit with a fat little chick sitting in the fucking dugout with her team sitting there saying, I'm not intimidated by you. I go, I'm just speaking up for my team, but I understand that you guys are not used to seeing a big black guy coach
mm,
football. I said, but at the exact same time, and now the running joke is when I see the umpires at the games, they're like, don't you go out there intimidating anybody down today, Keith.
but the thing is, it's kind of like it's not like it made me upset one like summer because I go to the grocery store and I'm minding my own business and people be staring at me and I'd be like, what? They're looking at me, they're judging me, and then a friend of mine. Her name's Eva Dunbar. She's a bodybuilder. She's an IFBB pro bodybuilder, and I remember her messaging me and saying, because I went online and I was crying, I was upset, and I was like, everybody's staring at me, and this isn't fair. And so she goes, I'm going to call you. So I was like, okay. So she calls me and she says to me, Steph, this is what you want. You want to be big. You want to be muscular, right? I'm like, yes, yes. And she goes, well, lean into it because this is like the universe telling you that what you're doing is working. People are staring at you. This is what we want. We are bodybuilders. We want to be freaky. We want people to stare at us. So
Mhm.
when I got that when that got in my head, I was like, I could accept it more. And I'm like, okay, this is cool. Like if I take my sweater off in the grocery store and people start looking, that's cool. Like don't
Hey,
get
Steph, you know what you just tell them? It's called a gym membership.
ah! Go to the gym. Well, I had one lady anyway. I'll tell that story another day. But it was,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
like my feelings get so hurt sometimes for the stupidest thing. But usually I'm on prep, so I'm hungry and I'm tired when I get my feelings hurt. But like I have a big pit bull dog, and we go for walks. And one day this lady saw us and she crossed the street, and I was like, what the man? Like we're the nicest people you could meet, and you're crossing the fucking street. And I said that to my brother the next day. I was like, some lady crossed the street when she saw me. And he goes, yeah, look at you. Look at you, the tattoos, the muscle. He goes, I bet you're walking like this, weren't you? And I was like, oh, fuck, I was. He's like, that damn dog of yours with this big studded collar. He's like, I would have crossed the street, and I'm your brother.
Yeah,
So,
that thing is people gonna have preconceptions of
exactly.
people like you, Keith and Steph, because they're not used to it. Like for me, when I remember my first time I met my first female bodybuilders when Glenn, Glenn from Amazon Fitness had his debut his magazine, and it was for me it was kind of awestruck because it's one thing when I see y'all on television or on the internet or look at a magazine, but see y'all up close and personal,
Oh, in real
personal.
life, it's completely different. When you see these big boys and these big bodybuilders in real life, it's awesome. You're just like, whoa, like it's
Yeah,
pretty cool.
you feel like you're in Jurassic Park. You
Dude,
feel
I
like
don't even know. I remember I was at a show and the heavyweights came out, and I couldn't help it. I just started screaming when they did the back and they opened up the back. I just like, people were looking at me. But I was like, this is a once in a lifetime. You're not going to see this again, or maybe you will, but when you're at a show, you never know if you're going to see it again.
Mhm.
Like
True.
these are bodies that you know they don't last forever, and it's very hard to come by. So
Yeah.
when
Yeah,
you see
K,
a big heavyweight, man,
yeah,
that's
and my
crazy.
man KL, he's been to a few shows here and there, and he shares his experience. I think he was at the New York Pro last month where he got to see Nick Walker. And that guy. He's a total other level.
That's a
You
freak.
know,
Don't they
Yeah.
call him the freak or
no,
something?
the
So,
mutants.
KL, here's a question. When you seen him, what did you think?
Well, when I seen him, I'm like, wow, he's huge. I seen him like twice, really. I think he was outside and everybody was amazed by him. And I'm just looking. I'm like, wow, he's huge. Like he's big.
I wonder where he
But
buys his clothes. Oh,
but I wasn't so, huh?
oh, sorry, no, he
Say
probably
that
just wondering
again.
where he buys clothes. Anyway, sorry.
Go ahead, keep going, KL.
Yeah,
Keep
yeah.
going.
Oh no, no, no. But I was kind of, it was like a different world for me. Like because I'm not a bodybuilder, of course, and it was like, but at the same time, you're a bit fascinated, especially with the women, and like this recent one, I wanted to go up. I seen somebody that caught my interest, but she was talking to people, and then she was like sitting a row. I was like, if I see her like come to my direction, I was gonna ask her for a picture because I came late. And then she ended up like sitting on she's ended up sitting with the people in a row and stuff. But yeah, she
Oh,
caught my attention because her arms
next show
was
you go
huge.
to, if you see a bodybuilder like that you like, just walk up to him and tap him. They love that stuff, dude. They live for getting their pictures
Yeah,
taken with people. Just bug them. They love that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Or
Like I
maybe
said,
no, actually,
yeah,
just do
yeah.
it.
you
Because
gotta be
she
careful
caught
some of
my
these.
interest. I was like, but she Yeah, no, I didn't want to, I didn't want to talk because she was talking with people, and I was gonna wait till she,
You
but
were being
she ended up
polite.
not coming to my direction. She ended up sitting. Yeah, I was trying to be polite. I didn't want to be like thirsty because I know we get that reputation, especially we ain't
Here's
bodybuilders and stuff
hold
like
there.
that. So I had to
You
fall back
you
and
were not
stuff.
hold right there. You would not